He accidentally texted, "I love you," to his female boss. She knocked on his door at midnight. Ryan Calloway had a system. Every night at 8:30, after his 6-year-old daughter, Lily was tucked in bed with her stuffed elephant, Gerald, and her favorite purple blanket. He'd sit at the kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee and send a goodnight text to his mother. It was their thing, a small, sacred ritual that had kept them connected after everything fell apart. After the divorce, after the loneliness, after he learned what it meant to be the only adult in a house built for two, his mother never missed a reply. Sometimes it was a heart emoji, sometimes a voice note, sometimes just, "I'm proud of you, baby." 3 words that could undo an entire bad week in under a second. It was the one thing Ryan counted on. But on a Tuesday night in November, after a 12-hour shift, after helping Lily with a school project about butterflies, after burning dinner and eating cereal instead, after running on exactly 3 hours of sleep, Ryan grabbed his phone without his glasses, scrolled to the wrong contact and typed, "Long day, missing you, I love you, good night." He hit send. He set the phone down. He rubbed his eyes. Then he looked at the screen. The name at the top wasn't Mom. It was Claire Hendricks, Director of Operations, his boss. Ryan stared at the screen for a full 10 seconds without breathing. His brain simply refused to process what his eyes were reading. Claire Hendricks, the woman who ran Monday morning meetings like a military general, who had never once smiled before 10 a.m., who wore sharp blazers and carried a leather planner, like it was a shield against the entire world, had just received a "I love you" text from one of her employees. From him, a junior account manager who sat 3 floors below her office. He grabbed the phone and typed with shaking fingers, "Claire, I'm so sorry. That was meant for my mom. I grabbed the wrong contact. Please ignore that completely. I'm absolutely mortified and I completely understand if this is a problem." Sent. He sat back and pressed both palms against his face. For 20 minutes, nothing happened. The kitchen clock ticked. The refrigerator hummed. Gerald the stuffed elephant stared at him from the counter where Lily had left him. Then 3 dots appeared on the screen. They disappeared, appeared again, disappeared. Ryan held his breath. Then, "Good night, Ryan." Just that. 2 words. No smiley face. No "we'll talk Monday." No "please see HR." Just "good night." He had absolutely no idea what that meant. The next morning, Ryan drove to work with his stomach in knots. He wore his best button-down, the navy one his mother had bought him for Christmas, and rehearsed an apology 6 different ways on the highway, and told himself firmly that this was fine. Professional adults handled awkward moments all the time. It was a misdirected text. It meant nothing. Claire Hendricks was a reasonable person who would treat it as the accident it was, and they would never speak of it again. He stepped off the elevator on the 14th floor. Claire was standing at the coffee station near the reception desk, holding a ceramic mug in both hands, reading something on her tablet. She was wearing a charcoal blazer. Her dark hair was pulled back the way it always was. Everything looked completely normal. Then she looked up. Their eyes met across the open floor, and Claire Hendricks, Director of Operations, the woman who had once made a senior account manager, revise a presentation 7 times over a single misaligned logo. The woman who had never in 3 years acknowledged Ryan's existence outside of a meeting room, or smiled. Not a polite, tight-lipped corporate smile. A real one, warm, almost shy. "Morning, Ryan," she said quietly, and turned back toward her office. He stood frozen by the elevator doors for 4 full seconds. His co-worker Marcus appeared at his elbow. "Dude." His voice was barely above a whisper. "Did she just smile at you?" "I genuinely don't know what just happened," Ryan said. The week moved strangely after that. Claire wasn't warmer in any obvious way. She was still precise, still demanding, still the kind of person who sent 6 a.m. emails with subject lines like, "Deliverable gaps, immediate review required," and who expected responses within the hour. She still ran Tuesday briefings with the efficiency of someone who billed their time by the minute. But something had shifted in the way she interacted with Ryan specifically. She held eye contact a beat longer than necessary during presentations. When he spoke in meetings, she listened with a kind of focused attention that made the rest of the room disappear. Once, when he made a dry comment about a client's impossible timeline, she pressed her lips together to hide a smile and looked down at her notes. Marcus noticed all of it. He kept a running commentary from his desk across the aisle. She looked at you again. She just approved your budget proposal in under 4 minutes. Mine took 2 weeks. Ryan, she laughed at your joke? She doesn't laugh at jokes. Ryan told him to stop. But on Thursday afternoon, Claire stopped by his desk without warning and set down a paper coffee cup. No explanation, no words at all. She just placed it beside his keyboard and walked back toward her office like it was nothing. Ryan looked at the cup. Written on the side in black marker, flat white, 2 sugars, his order, which he had mentioned exactly once, in passing, in a conversation about the new coffee machine in the break room, 3 months ago. She had remembered. Marcus literally put his head on his desk. Friday started normally and unraveled by 2:45 p.m. Ryan's phone buzzed with a number he recognized immediately, Lily's school. He stepped away from his desk and answered with a sinking feeling before the woman even finished her sentence. Lily had a fever of 102. Could he come right away? He walked back to his desk in a daze. Files spread everywhere. A critical client call scheduled in 38 minutes. A New York account worth $300,000 that had taken 6 weeks to secure. His manager was out sick. There was nobody to hand it off to. He stood there with his jacket in one hand and his car keys in the other, doing the math that no single parent ever wins. Go. He turned around. Claire was standing in the doorway of his workspace. She had her phone in one hand and his meeting notes, which she had clearly already pulled up, in the other. Her expression was calm and completely certain. I'll take the call, she said. I know the account. Go get your daughter. Claire, you're the director of operations. You shouldn't have to. Ryan, her voice didn't rise. It just landed with a quiet, unshakable weight. She needs her dad. Go. He went. The pediatric urgent care waiting room was yellow and loud and smelled like antiseptic and apple juice. Lily sat on Ryan's lap in a paper gown, leaning her hot little forehead against his collarbone, clutching Gerald with both arms. The doctor said it was a virus, nothing serious. Rest and fluids, she'd be fine in a few days. Ryan carried her to the car and buckled her in and drove home without the radio on. One hand on the wheel, one hand reaching back to hold her small fingers. By 7 o'clock she was asleep, tucked under her purple comforter with Gerald beside her and the humidifier running softly. Ryan sat on the edge of her bed for a long time after her breathing slowed, watching her chest rise and fall in the lamplight. This was everything, he thought. This small, sleeping person was the only thing that had ever made the last 2 years make sense. He finally got up, changed out of his work clothes, and collapsed onto the couch with his phone. There was a message from Claire sent at 4:17 p.m. Call went well. New York confirmed the contract. Lily okay? He stared at it. She had asked about Lily. He typed back, she's okay. Just a virus. Thank you, Claire. Seriously, thank you. Her reply came quickly. Good, get some rest. At 9:12 p.m. his doorbell rang. Ryan wasn't expecting anyone. He assumed it was his neighbor or maybe a delivery. He ran a hand through his hair, pulled on a sweatshirt, and opened the door. Claire Hendricks stood on his front porch. She was in dark jeans and a soft gray sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders for the first time he'd ever seen. No blazer, no planner, no armor of any kind. She looked younger. She looked uncertain. She was holding a brown paper bag from the Thai place on 5th Street, the restaurant. Ryan had mentioned once in a conversation about takeout near the office. She also looked like she was seriously considering turning around and leaving. The call went well, she said, as if this explained why she was standing on his porch at 9 p.m. on a Friday night. New York confirmed. And I was driving home and I passed the restaurant and I thought, she stopped, looked at the bag. I don't know what I thought. She exhaled slowly. I can go. This was probably a strange idea. Ryan looked at her for a moment. Then he opened the door wider and stepped aside. Please don't, he said. They sat at his kitchen table. The exact same table where he had sent that accidental text 1 week ago, and ate pad thai and spring rolls out of cardboard containers. while the baby monitor hummed softly on the counter. It was the most ordinary thing in the world. It was the most significant thing Ryan had experienced in 2 years. Claire talked and he listened. She talked about things that had clearly never been said out loud before, maybe never even to herself. That she had been with the company for 9 years and somewhere, in the middle of all that ambition, she had forgotten to build a life alongside the career. That she lived alone in a high-rise downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows and an incredible view and no one to look at it with. That she worked until midnight most nights not because she needed to, but because the silence of the apartment was harder to sit with than any deadline. Do you ever regret it? Ryan asked. Building everything around work? She thought about it honestly, the way she did everything. I regret not noticing sooner, she finally said. There's a difference. He nodded. He understood that distinction better than most. He told her about the divorce, not the ugly mechanics of it, but the aftermath. The first night alone in the house with Lily asleep down the hall, calling his mother at 2 a.m. because he didn't know how to be a single father and was terrified of getting it wrong. Learning slowly that love wasn't something you felt. It was something you did. Every single day, even when you were exhausted, even when you burned dinner and ate cereal instead. Claire listened the way she did in meetings, completely still, completely present, not waiting for her turn to speak. She's lucky, she said softly, nodding toward the hallway. Lily, to have someone who sends goodnight texts to his mom. Ryan laughed quietly. She earned it. She drove 2 hours the week after the divorce to restock my refrigerator and didn't say a single word about it. That's love, Claire said. Yeah, he looked at her. It is. The table felt very small. Outside the city was quiet. The baby monitor breathed softly. Gerald the elephant watched them from the counter with his button eyes. They stayed at that table until almost midnight, talking about the things people talk about when they're both surprised to find themselves somewhere they didn't plan to be. Cities they'd grown up in, books they'd abandoned halfway through, the strange grief of outgrowing a version of yourself, what they wanted the next 5 years to look like, now that they were honest enough to ask. When Claire finally stood to leave, Ryan walked her to the door. She paused on the porch, hands tucked into the pockets of her sweater. The cold November air between them.
She started and stopped.
Yeah, Ryan said. She smiled. The real one, the one that changed her whole face. Good night, Ryan. Good night, Claire. He watched her walk to her car. She turned once at the end of the path and he was still standing in the doorway. He didn't pretend not to be. Monday morning. Elevator doors opened on 14. Claire was at the coffee station. She looked up when he walked in. This time, neither of them pretended the weekend hadn't happened. She held out a paper cup, flat white, 2 sugars, and fell into step beside him toward the conference room. Marcus watched from across the floor with his coffee frozen halfway to his mouth. Ryan didn't explain. Some things didn't need explaining. Some things started with a wrong number, a moment of exhaustion, 3 words sent to the wrong person at the wrong time, and ended up being exactly right. The message meant for his mother found the person who needed to hear it most.